Welcome back, everyone, to our fireside chat. I have missed you all so much. It's been a long journey since we got back to our fireside chat, and we've been doing some incredible work. I had to take a break after going back to school and graduating and just restructuring so many things. I am so honored. I'm so honored because I get to interview the one and only Janelle Cruz. She's changing the face of social work as it relates to bringing healing back to our profession by starting with us first. So, Janelle, thank you so, so much for being with me today and joining me.
Sure. Thank you, Shanika. I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Same here. And Janelle actually just spoke at Touro University School of Social Work at my social work ethics and values course, and my students were absolutely fanning over her and did not want her to leave. So I'm grateful that you're part of this platform as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a blast. So,
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and read your bio. We'll jump into some questions. Again, today's topic, we'll be talking about healing and the social work profession and how to sustain ourselves and find joy in this work. And, if you're watching this, this is not just for social workers, but if you're in any helping profession, whether that be a teacher, a principal, an educator in your own right, a coach, maybe you're just a parent or a caregiver and you're helping your children, or maybe you're a community leader, or maybe you're a pastor, or any other professional that's helping other people where you have to give of yourself. This fireside chat is for you if you fall into one of those categories. So we're hoping that you get something out of this. Of course, when we have these fireside chats, it's about transformation. It's about giving you the tools you need, whether you're a mother again or a professional, to be able to succeed in whatever area of your life that you are needing support in. Janelle Cruz, let's get right into it. MSW, LICSW, LCSW-C, is a licensed clinical social worker, trauma informed psychotherapist, speaker, and founder of Kai Wellness Collective. Drawing on more than a decade of experience across child welfare, hospitals, higher education, community mental health, and private practice, she brings a unique perspective to mental well being that bridges clinical expertise with community centered approaches to healing. Her work sits at the intersection of culture, community, and mental well being through therapy, speaking, education, facilitation, and community-centered experiences. She creates space that make conversations about mental well-being more accessible, culturally responsive, and woven into everyday life. Janelle is passionate about helping people, individuals, organizations, and communities cultivate sustainable well-being by strengthening connection to themselves, to one another, and to the communities they belong to. Her work is grounded in the belief that healing does not happen in isolation. It happens in the ways we care for ourselves, one another, and the communities we belong to. I love reading your bio, Jenna. It's like so therapeutic, by the way. Welcome again.
thank you.
Yes, of course. So let's jump into it. I always love to start off by asking, people that are brought into this profession, it's such a higher calling. What brought you in this field? What's your why in here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think that I've thought about for a long time. But when I was deciding to go to undergraduate school, I really wanted to understand why the world worked the way that it did, why I thought about the world in the ways that I did. And I think a lot of like my experiences within my own family, within my own culture, I really just wanted to understand like the why of like why do we operate in this way. And so that really brought me to psychology first, and then now on this other side, doing therapy. But it's been sort of full circle. But I always like to say that I got into this work and in this field to just understand myself. And I really do think that that's sort of the root of it. So, yeah.
I truly love that, Janelle. And I know we had like an offline conversation about this idea of like being in this place to be able to understand you. And I really, really admire the fact that that was your driving force into social work.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you've been through so many different jobs in terms of like the industry from child welfare, community-based practice, and now you're in private practice. What has your journey as a social worker been like?
Yeah, I would say it's been eclectic. I think I've dabbled
Mhm.
in a lot of different areas. First, being introduced to the work of social workers, being a child protection social worker many, many years ago. And that sort of showed me like the systems that we're often up against in this work. And
Mm,
so that was a challenging job. It was rewarding in a lot of ways. And then I wanted to use more of my clinical skills after getting my MSW. And so I did community mental health, worked in two different hospital settings, and then at university before going into therapy.
mm,
And yeah, I think I got a taste for all of the ways that us as healers or in the healing work, all the different ways that we can impact people,
mhm,
and all the ways that the work impacts us.
mm,
So it hasn't all been glamorous either, but it's
mm.
definitely helped me, and this is something that I talk about a lot, really build the relationship with myself. So I can understand my own limits and I can understand the work that I wanted to do and the work that maybe I wasn't the best fit for. So I've had a sort of rainbow of experiences in this field
Mm.
that I'm grateful for.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I love that so much in so many ways. What you're saying about understanding you, and we're going to get into that because I love a lot of the foundation of what you teach. Really, that this healing work is not possible without understanding yourself. So let's talk about Kai. I heard the story. I thought it was such an amazing story about how you got started. What does Kai stand for? Where did it come from? This idea, and what do you do?
Yeah, thank you. I was so happy when one of your students brought it up because I often forget to tell the story. But so CHI is it's an acronym. It stands for Knowledge, Alignment, and Interbeing. But before building this practice, I went to Hawaii solo, my very first solo trip in January of 2021, and it was a really difficult season of my life. I was struggling with my own mental health, and I just really needed a break. So I went to Hawaii alone, and I just had a lot of really beautiful experiences. And one of those experiences was I was in the middle of the ocean, jumping off of a boat, you know,
I love that.
with a group of strangers. And at that time, I did not know how to swim. And so it was just one of those things that I felt like I wanted to do for myself. And I felt like the entire purpose of the trip was for me to get out of my comfort zone and to really be brave. And I felt like that was happening. But at the end of that excursion, I learned that the word kai means ocean in Hawaiian. And I just thought that was so beautiful. Like just the story of my experience in Hawaii, and water is my healing element. And so I felt like it was just beautifully aligned, and I wanted to be a part of my brand. And again, it's an acronym for knowledge, alignment, and interbeing. And those are really like the pillars that I build my work around in this practice is education, knowledge, making sure that we're living in alignment, right, with our practices and the habits for the life that we say that we want to have. And
Mm.
then interbeing, which is really, really so important to me because it's interconnectedness, it's community, and that's a really big important theme in my work and things that we'll talk about today about culture and community. But that's the story of Kai.
I just love that story. I just gotta tell you, it makes me wanna go to Hawaii, go to the middle of the ocean with strangers and just jump there. Now, I'm not as adventurous as you generally, but if I ever do, we have to do it together. We have to jump in the ocean together.
It's so beautiful.
I love that. And also just FYI, water is my healing element as well. That's where vision
Uh,
happens for me, and every day I use water as a part of my healing, journey.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love this talk so much. I don't want it to end. We have so much to cover. So let's talk about lived experience and culture, and how these ideas of like your lived experience and your culture, but also identity, can influence healing. And then if you can talk about what healing is anyway, as a part of that, like, so what is healing? And then how does our culture and identity and our lived experience influence our healing?
Yeah. I like that you're asking this question because I feel like people are talking about healing so much, on social media, like what is healing? And I think that people probably define healing for themselves very differently.
Mhm.
So broadly, I'm not sure how to answer that question, but I think that when I think about healing, it's getting back to our authentic selves before all of the
Yes.
things in the world that we've experienced, right? Getting back to our core, getting back to our center, um, and recovering from the things that we have been through that are very likely have been difficult. So healing is different for everyone, but I think we're all trying to get back to a place where we're like finding balance and trying to find some sense of ease or some sense of joy, even.
Mm,
So I think that's how I would define it. Um, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's like a coming back to you is
Yeah.
what healing is. Yeah, that's beautiful. And then in terms of this idea of like identity and culture and our lived experience, how does that influence healing? The ability to come back to alignment with ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's so important because, healing is not like this sort of like blank slate. Like we don't enter therapy or healing as a blank slate, right? We have our experiences, we have our
Mm,
families, our communities, our stories, right? Our faith, all of the relationships that that have shaped how we respond to the world, how we respond to stress. And I always think about culture specifically in the sense of like culture shapes how we show up in the world, right? Our
mm,
experiences, our lived experiences rather, impact how we show up in the world, and
yeah.
also how we manage stress and how we seek support. So it's not about like erasing those experiences, it's about understanding how those have shaped, um, and deciding on the patterns, that we continue to have, as we think about changing and shifting and healing. So I think that process definitely looks different for everyone, but our lived experiences really shape how we approach our healing work and our healing journeys.
Wow. It's a silent moment for me to kind of sit in that. And something you said, I feel like it's just so powerful. We're not trying to erase what happened. And I think that, a lot of times people just want to forget it. It's like, forget, I don't want to even think about what I ever went through. And it's too painful to face it or to deal with it or think about it. But how do you come to a place in your life when you've gone through so much tumultuous experiences and pain and letdown and disappointment to be able to say, I'm in a place where I don't want to erase what's happened to me, but I want to use it um, to fuel and propel me forward.
Yeah, like the meaning making of our experiences, right? Because as we talked about
And
what healing is, for some people, healing might just be making sense of the
mm,
things that happened, right? And that's really powerful.
mhm, mm. Oh, I love that. That's so good. That's so good, Janelle. And I'm thinking about my own self, just a little commercial. And when I originally studied psychology, I was trying to make sense of what in the world did I just go through. It was what propelled me into this work. Similar to you, Janelle, was just a deep desire to figure out what kind of dysfunction did I grow up in. And the healing that I got was the meaning that I was able to apply to that. Um, and it's been so freeing.
That's it. That's the word right there, right? Like the freedom and like liberation and for things, especially the things that we have no control over. Like we don't get to choose the cultures that we're a part of. We don't get to necessarily choose the families that we're in or the neighborhoods we live in, or some of the systematic things that we experience. Those are not choices that we get to make. But we
Mm,
get a choice to make meaning of those things and to not let them weigh us down.
mm. That's so good. That's so good. So this question always comes to me, and part of it is because, and I love this about you. I feel like you've gotten to a place in your life where you are able to say, generally, this doesn't serve me. I don't want to do this. No, and establishing those boundaries. But
Yeah.
also a place where you recognize uh, when you might be feeling more emotionally volatile, um, or maybe feeling a little burnt out. And I think if we're taking a temperature, just broadly in our social work and counseling and helping profession, so many people are burnt out. They're so exhausted. They're exhausted. They're mentally exhausted. They're emotionally exhausted. They're physically exhausted. You can see the exhaustion on their faces, and they're barely making it, and they're showing up every day for everyone else, and hardly no one is showing up for them. But I think around this exhaustion, and I think the scary part for me is that most of the time when we are exhausted, we don't even know what's happening. We have no idea. So, one, could you tell us your story of how you knew when you were exhausted and burnt out? And then how do we recognize when that's happening to us?
Yeah, the journey to realizing that I was burned out was not a smooth, like, cute journey, right?
Mm, I could.
And I think that because oftentimes in this work, there's so much praise for showing up and like the
Mm,
sacrifices that we do end up making for the communities that we serve or the people that we're supporting. There's this sort of reward, you know, for like doing so much and not getting things in return. Like that is like the sacrificial kind of energy in social work, oftentimes. For me, I didn't know that I was burnt out at this time, but I had shared the story before, but I went to the I went to the dentist, and they told me that I was grinding in my sleep, and I was like, I don't grind
wow.
my teeth. They're like, you grind your teeth, and that was like the very beginning of my social work career, unfortunately, and
Wow.
and it was really a result of not having great supervision. That's a whole different thing, but
Mm,
I realized that I was not in a good place and that like this was not a sustainable place for me to operate in because my literal health is being impacted, right? Like I'm grinding my teeth and I didn't have any awareness that this was happening.
mm,
So those were, and it didn't just, it wasn't like I had this experience and I was like, all right, I got to do something different. Again, it was very normalized that like, okay, the weight of this work, this is the expectation. And so that was almost 10 years ago that I found out that I was grinding my teeth. But
wow.
it was definitely planting the seeds for like I have to figure out another way to sustain myself if I'm going to do this work. And I also understood that that work at the time, which was CPS, that was not my calling. That was not the
Mhm.
ministry for me. Um,
Mhm.
so those were things that were becoming clear as I realized that this is impacting my body, and I'm not aware of it. So I need to pay more attention. So that the paying attention and the noticing was what I
Mhm.
started to build from that time.
I love that you said it wasn't just like you learned and then you stopped. Initially, it was almost like, oh yeah, this comes with the territory of this work. But then s- I think there were other signs that showed you, well, this really isn't my calling. I shouldn't be doing this anyway. Um, I'm so proud of you for making that decision as a woman of color, because I don't think we know how to make that decision for ourselves. It's so hard. One of my students said this the other day, but she said, when you leave, there's a shame associated with it. How dare you? Like, how dare you leave that place or leave your clients or leave, but what if it doesn't serve you anymore?
Yeah.
How do we gain the agency and courage to leave?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not easy. There's sacrifices, right? But also like, I always talk to people about like your humanity is part of the clinical work. Who you are
Mm,
as a person, right? The grief, the joy, whatever things that you're experiencing as a human being, we bring that into our work, right? And this is not talked about enough, but like we have to honor our humanity first, right? It's
mm,
the age old saying like we can't pour from an empty cup. Yet for social workers, it's like there's an exception to that,
mm.
right? And
Yeah.
so that there's this unlearning of like that's not how it has to be. Like maybe people have been doing it this way, but that's not the way that I want to do this work. And that's the great thing about this field. You can do the work in the way that makes sense for you. You don't have to stay within the lines. I don't believe that.
Mhm. You're
Yeah.
revolutionizing social work. I don't know if the employers will be happy with it with this.
True.
But it's so necessary. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, this is so good. And so I think the other part of that, and I think you touched on it really, is how do we recognize signs in our own body? Are there like certain signs that you've noticed across your work where people can identify when they're reaching the end of themselves? Um, and if that's happening, what do you advise people to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again like we talked initially about like knowing yourself, and I always say that being a social worker, being a therapist specifically, has made me the best version of myself. And that's because I believe that I can't show up in this healing work if I haven't done my own healing work, right? So, one, I do think there's this like, what is your own practice for taking care of yourself, right? One really good practice that I think is incredibly useful is reflection.
Yeah.
Like, reflection requires you to slow things down,
Mhm.
right? To maybe pause and like take inventory, you know? So I think two simple questions, right? Where in my life am I experiencing tension? And where in my life am I experiencing joy? Right? And if
Mhm.
you look at those and become curious, is there a balance? Right? I think it's just really important for us to like slow things down and like focus on how we're feeling. And like that takes slowing down, that takes paying attention, that takes having a practice of doing these things. So for some people it's journaling, for some people it's walking, um, but being able to like slow things down a little bit so that you can, I talk about being an introspective therapist because a lot of my work is like, I'm focusing on what's happening inside. I'm
Mhm.
focusing on my body, focusing on my mind and my thoughts. And I teach my clients that, right? Like how to build a better relationship with themselves. But I think as the social workers, as the healers, we also have to have that practice of paying
Mhm.
attention.
Oh, it's so good. You're just speaking to me. Where in your life is there tension, and where in your life is there joy? And I was doing inventory in my own life. I am going to write that down in my little sticky note, and I'm going to meditate on that as I do believe in reflection with all my heart. I think, you know, when we slow things down, it's better for our nervous system.
Yeah,
Oftentimes our nervous system is just firing off, and our stress hormones are overloaded, and we don't have enough joy to
exactly.
balance
And
out. Mhm.
yeah, and the reflective practice, whatever it is for each person, it creates more space, and that space is what's going to help you notice your needs before things become a crisis or become burnout, right? Because you don't want to. It's like I always use this analogy of like we're not gonna if we know we have to drive 50 miles, we're gonna make sure we have gas in our car before we hit the road. It's the
Wow,
putting the gas
that's good.
right? Putting the gas in before we leave. But we need to think about that, about our own selves. Like, all right, what's your tank like right now? Are you on E because you're experiencing more tension than joy? All right, what do you think you need to do to fix that or help that?
That's so good. That's so good. I love that analogy, especially because I'm always driving. I love that. So
And we
I'm
take
wondering.
care of cars like very well. Like we're gonna put the gas,
Ooh,
we're gonna do all these things for the car to make sure it runs smoothly. Where is that for like our own well being?
you are
So
hitting, Janelle. How much money do I spend on my car a year? I'm not talking about just gas, maybe like oil change. Every time I bring it to BMW, there's a whole nother thing I need to get done for another God knows how much money. And it just keeps adding up. But how much do I spend on my own
yeah.
body, self-care, and reflective practice? Whew, that's okay. That's for me. I'm sorry. Yeah, that might be for y'all too watching, but that was for me. That hit. That hit.
It's
That
for
hit. Oh, goodness. It's so all right, so we're winding up, but I have two questions, burning questions. One is, I'm obsessed with this question. How do we bring this healing centered work to institutions and to schools of social work, of counseling, of all those helping professions? How do we bring it so this doesn't become um, we want this to be the norm. It should be the norm, not the exception. So how do we bring this healing work? How do we begin to bring this healing work to our institutions and organizations that are quite frankly burning us out, and to so schools of social work and counseling, schools, etc.
Yeah. I think there should be more conversations or even curriculum of like, we talk about like being the healer, right? And I do believe that like if you haven't done your own healing work, I think it's going to be really difficult to show up for
Mhm.
people in the ways that they're probably going to need. Because if you think about especially therapy, right? People are going to relate to you having lived experiences, to you maybe understanding context of what they're experiencing via like their culture or whatever. So I think that like really pushing and not like self-care. I know that word is
Mhm.
out there quite often,
Overused.
but really like you have to take care of yourself in this work. And I think it would be really cool if they focus on teaching folks how to find the practices that would help them sustain themselves in this work, right? The questions that I mentioned earlier, but more deeply than that, it can be more deeply than that, because some people are going to be like, I don't know how to like, how do I answer this question? I haven't had a reflective practice. But I think modeling, right, is really important, but also like teaching people like from our experiences, like we can teach other folks from the years that we've been in the game of like what might be helpful for them to start off with, like, right, things I wish people told me before I got started. So I think these programs really need to push like the looking at these students as humans, right? Like, how are you going to take care of yourself and build a practice where self-preservation is at the core of that? It's not self-sacrifice that's at the core of this work. Self-preservation. How do you take care of yourself?
Mm-mm.
Who wants to have a burnt out provider? Like, no one's going to win in that situation. You know what I mean? So I think just like really normalizing, and because I think people really try to glamorize what it means to be a social worker when they're thinking about the work of like, yeah, we give so much. Like, we need to not normalize that. I think that
Mhm.
that's a really good place to start. It's like not normalizing that you should be overgiving, not normalizing that you haven't taken any time off, not normalizing that you've been doing overtime but you haven't seen your own kids. Like, we
Mm-mm.
have to not, we can't glamorize it. We have to give people the honest truth.
Oh, you said so many things. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Let me just I'm pausing because I'm like I'm taking it in at the same time and then I want to comment on it. But you said self-preservation should be at the core, not self-sacrifice. I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it because you're right. You are so right that we are the ones that are perpetrating that same cycle, right, of self-sacrifice because we're glorifying it. We're
Right.
glorifying it. The expectations is that we sacrifice ourselves. Oh, you're a social worker. You could do it. You can handle it. Make it happen. Make it happen. Make the magic happen. And it's just impossible. And then you talked about humanity. We have to put the humanity back into human services because we've
Yeah.
taken it out. We've taken it out. And so how, are we going to sustain ourselves? And then you talked about schools being the ones to create these spaces and curriculum where professionals, as they're learning to be, and before they get into the field, to learn what reflective practice and healing practice looks like for them. um, it really is. It's a culture shift, right? It's like it's a paradigm shift. It's we're starting. We have to begin to see it differently.
Absolutely. It's like with anything that we know, right? Once we have a new perspective, we can't unsee that new perspective, right? And so
Mhm.
things are shifting, right? It's 2026, right? And we're
Mhm.
the social work field is shifting and changing, and people need to rethink how they've always thought about this work. And
Mhm.
that again, there's flexibility on like how I approach this work is going to be different maybe from how you approach the work, but like you get to define this work for yourself.
Mhm. I love that you said that because and predicting in 2030 and 2040, the field of social work is going to look so much different, just in terms of the way in which social workers are going to either accept or not accept a lot of the things that have been traditionally thrown at us
Yeah.
with Generation Z and Alpha generation. I'm sorry, honey child. I know
And
millennials and Gen X and baby boomers dealt with a child. They gotta go. They are not gonna do it. It's gonna be redefined. And
mm,
what they're predicting in the workplaces is that employers will have to begin serving employees. There's gonna be a change shift, right?
wow.
And so we gotta, it behooves us if we don't want to lose, we talked about burnout, but it's about a 40% of staff turnover in the field in year one, specifically in child welfare.
Yeah.
40% leave in year one. That number is going to just keep going up if we don't do anything about it. So it behooves us to do something about it.
Yeah, I love that for the next generation of social workers for sure, and for the future of social work. So shout out to Gen Z because absolutely it needs an overturn. So
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, that's where a lot of your work will be right there with the Gen Zs and
that's right.
healing work. They'll be like, "Yes, Jenny, you're" what do they call it? I can't remember. Forget it. Let me not try to do the Gen Z slang.
I know.
I don't know how to do it, but it's like, I don't know, it's hitting, something like that. My daughter said that, whatevs. But this is so good. We're winding now. What do you what hope do you have for the helping professions? And lastly, what's coming up? What's next for you at Kai Wellness Collective?
Yeah, I mean, my hope is exactly what we're talking about, that people can shift how they think about this work, and that all levels, all stages, all systems put the people that's doing the work at the forefront. There have been
Mm,
so many times in some of the spaces that I've worked where they've put the clients before the providers, and it does
mhm.
not work. It does not work. And so my hope is exactly what we're talking about, that like things can shift about how folks are thinking about and approaching the work, and that we can really focus on the humanity of everybody, our clients, the
Yeah.
provider. Let that be the root of where we're going forward, right? Like let us be planting those seeds now so that the next generation of social workers can just be in a different position. In that, if folks are burning out, to your point with the stats, year one, what does that mean for those communities that are not being served in the ways that they deserve to be served, right? It's just, my hope is that things will be drastically different, and that we can really pull from the humanity aspect of things as we look ahead.
It's incredible. And what's next for Kai Collective? Wellness
What?
Collective.
Yes, thank you, Kai Wellness Collective. Yes,
Mm.
I'm just really excited about continuing to use my voice to, you know, I think that the like therapy is important, and I also think that meeting people where they're at is also important. And so therapy is not always folks' first choice, right? And so we really just focus on education. We focus on thinking about wellness, well-being, mental health outside of clinical spaces. So I'm really excited about more workshops, more
Yes.
community events,
Yeah, yeah.
speaking engagements, all of those things. As I continue to build the practice, I just want to be, a place that folks recognize, a reputable place that understands that we do things with integrity. We really, really care about culture as we think about well-being. Um, and the sky's the limit. I'm very excited.
That. I'm so excited for you. I'm just so excited for you, your work, where you're going. And I love everything about your work. I love the culture. What I love most is that you live and by example. You are the example. You're not just saying do this and your message is your life is a hot mess, but you are the example. You're the standard. You're living it. You're living it. And so your clients and the families you serve have no choice but to live it too. And that's
Yeah.
just a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I received the flowers. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. How can people reach you if they want to sign up for a workshop, book you to speak, or any of those things? How could they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. We are on most social medias. Kai Wellness Collective. It's KAI Wellness Collective. Our website is kaiwellnesscollective.com. That's probably the best way to stay in touch with what we have going on. And I do have a newsletter that you can find on the website. Folks can find on the website if they want to stay up to date about what's happening, if there's any events happening in their area. The newsletter will be really great for that. But Kai Wellness Collective on all the platforms.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalie. And I just want to say thank you to our audience for being a part of this show. If this landed for you, if it hit, as the young people would say, I'm getting up there in age. I won't tell you my age, but if this landed for you, please share it out to a colleague, to a friend, to your mama, to your child. Share it out. We want to change the way we've been doing life, and we want to do life better. So uplift this conversation and share this video. A few quick announcements. iRaise is launching a few new initiatives. We are coming your way. So all of our Latinx and Hispanic family members in New York, we're coming for you in a great way. We have our Uplift New York, sponsored by Hispanic Federation, where we'll be providing tons of workshops, wellness mobile clinics to your community. So if you're in the Bronx or Brooklyn, and there are about 14 neighborhoods that we're serving, we're giving out tons of free resources. We'll be doing wellness screenings on site, bringing vendors your way, and making sure you're connected to every support that you need. So please follow us. If you are a partner, provider, and you're interested in partnering with us and being a part of our database and our referral database, please reach out to us. Find out more information on our website, www.iracing.org. And for our Black family and Black brothers and sisters and everything in between, we are launching our Black Girls Racial Weathering Program, which will be teaching our Black girls how to stay connected to their bodies and know when it feels safe, and to begin to heal very early on from traumatic experiences. So there's so much going on. There's tons of other things happening, but those are the two initiatives that I wanted to announce. Please stay connected to us. Reach out to Kai Wellness Collective, to Jenny Cruz. Please, she's an incredible resource. We really appreciate you once again. Thank you so much for